You probably know someone like this. They never raise their voice. They never say no. They are endlessly patient, endlessly giving, endlessly kind. Everyone calls them a good person. Maybe you call yourself a good person. But Carl Jung believes something that almost no one wants to hear. The people who work hardest at being nice, the ones who never show anger, never express selfishness, never admit to dark thoughts, often carry the heaviest shadow of all, not despite their niceness, because of it. Today we are going to explore why and what it means for you. To understand this, we need to go back to how the shadow forms. Jung taught that the shadow is built from everything we reject about ourselves. Every trait, every emotion, every desire that we decided, or were told, was unacceptable. Now think about what happens to a child who is raised with very strict rules about behavior. Be good, be quiet, don't be selfish, don't be angry, don't be too much. Every time that child felt anger, and every child feels anger, they were told it was wrong. So they buried it. Every time they felt jealousy, and every child feels jealousy, they were ashamed of it, so they buried it. Every time they wanted something just for themselves, they were told that was selfish, so they buried it. These children grow into adults who genuinely believe they do not feel anger, who genuinely believe they are not jealous, who genuinely believe they have no selfish impulses. And here is the psychological reality. The anger didn't go away. The jealousy didn't go away. The selfishness didn't go away. They went into the shadow, and in the shadow, cut off from consciousness, they grew. Jung wrote in 2 essays on analytical psychology that the more civilized a person appears on the surface, the more powerful and autonomous the shadow becomes underneath. The nicest surface, the most controlled, the most agreeable, the most pleasant, often conceals the most turbulent unconscious. Let's talk about a specific type, the people pleaser. You know this person. You might be this person. They say yes when they mean no. They smile when they are furious. They give endlessly and never ask for anything in return. They avoid conflict at all costs. On the surface, they look like the most generous, selfless, kind people alive. But what is happening underneath? Every time they said yes when they meant no, resentment went into the shadow. Every time they swallowed their anger to keep the peace, rage went into the shadow. Every time they gave when they wanted to take, bitterness went into the shadow. This is why people-pleasers often have sudden, explosive outbursts that seem completely out of character. Why the nicest person in the room suddenly snaps and says something devastating. Why the most agreeable colleague one day sends an email that burns everything down. The shadow was full. It couldn't hold anymore. Jung called this the return of the repressed. What you will not allow to live consciously will eventually force its way out, often at the worst possible moment, often in the most destructive possible way. The longer you suppress it, the more violent the eruption. But the eruption is not always dramatic. More often, the shadow leaks. In people-pleasers and chronic nice people, the shadow leaks through what psychologists call passive aggression. They cannot express anger directly. That would violate their self-image as a nice person. So instead, they forget things. Conveniently, they are always slightly late. They give compliments that are actually insults. You're so brave for wearing that. They withdraw affection without explanation. They make you feel guilty for having needs they secretly share. None of this feels like aggression to them. They would be horrified if you called them aggressive, but Jung would recognize it immediately. This is the shadow expressing itself through the back door, because the front door has been locked and bolted by the persona of niceness. In Man and His Symbols, Jung writes that what we will not own consciously, we will act out unconsciously. The nice person is not lying when they say they are not angry. They genuinely do not feel it consciously. But the shadow is expressing it anyway, through behavior, through patterns, through the slow poison of passive aggression. Jung said something that sounds shocking at first. He said that to be truly good, genuinely, authentically good, a person must first know that they are capable of evil, not perform evil, not embrace evil, but know it, acknowledge it, own it. He wrote that a person who has not passed through the experience of their own darkness cannot truly choose the light. They are simply avoiding darkness, which is not the same as choosing goodness. This is why Jung was deeply suspicious of people who were entirely certain of their own virtue, who had never had a bad thought, who had never wanted to hurt someone, who had never felt rage or envy or greed. He called them dangerous because all of that material, all that unexperienced darkness, was sitting in the shadow, unacknowledged, unexamined, ready to project outward onto enemies, onto outsiders, onto anyone who could carry the darkness they refused to see in themselves. History's worst collective violence, Jung argued, has always been driven by masses of people projecting their own unacknowledged shadow onto a group they designated as evil. The people who were most certain they were the good ones. Beyond the psychological damage, there is a personal cost to chronic niceness that Jung identified clearly. When you bury your anger, you also bury your boundaries. When you bury your selfishness, you also bury your ability to prioritize yourself, your health, your creativity, your authentic desires. When you bury your aggression, you also bury your ambition, your drive, your capacity to compete and pursue what you want. The shadow is not only full of things that need to be controlled, it is full of energy, raw, powerful energy, that you need to live fully. Jung wrote that the shadow is 90% pure gold. The person who has never been allowed to be angry has also never been allowed to have real boundaries. The person who has never been allowed to be selfish has also never been allowed to fully pursue their own potential. The person who has suppressed all aggression has also suppressed the aggression needed to create, to build, to fight for something that matters. Niceness without shadow integration does not produce goodness. It produces exhaustion, resentment, emptiness, and eventually, collapse. Jung said something that I want you to sit with. He said, "I would rather be whole than good." Read that again. Not, "I want to be bad." Not, "I want to abandon ethics." Whole, complete, fully human, with the darkness acknowledged and integrated, not hidden and denied. Because a person who is whole can choose consciously. They can feel anger and decide what to do with it. They can feel envy and examine what it is telling them. They can feel selfish impulses and understand where they come from. A person who denies all of this has none of those choices. Their shadow is making the choices for them, invisibly, unconsciously, and often destructively. So if you recognize yourself in any of this, what do you do? Jung's answer is not to become a difficult person. It is to become a conscious one. Step 1. Admit the anger. The next time someone does something that should make you angry, and you feel nothing, stop. Ask yourself, if I were allowed to be angry right now, what would I feel? Sit with the answer. You do not have to express it, just acknowledge it exists. Step 2. Notice the resentment. Start tracking where resentment appears in your life. Resentment is suppressed anger with interest added. Where do you feel it? Toward whom? In what situations? Each instance is a shadow signal. Step 3. Practice the word no. Jung believed that the ability to say no is essential to psychological health. A yes that comes from fear of rejection is not kindness. It is self-abandonment. Begin small. 1 honest no per day. Step 4. Find your aggression a clean outlet. The energy in the shadow needs to go somewhere. Physical exercise. Competitive sports. Creative work that demands everything from you. Give your shadow's energy a form that serves you rather than leaks out sideways. Jung was not asking you to stop being kind. He was asking you to be honest. Honest about what lives inside you. Honest about what you feel. Honest about the full range of your humanity, not just the parts that are socially acceptable. Because the kindness that comes from a person who knows their own darkness, who has looked at it, understood it, and chosen compassion anyway, is something entirely different from the niceness of someone who has simply buried everything difficult. One is a choice. The other is a cage. I would rather be whole than good. In the next video, we explore Jung's archetypes, the ancient, universal figures that live in every human being and silently shape who we love, what we fear, and why we keep repeating the same patterns no matter how hard we try to change. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Are you a chronic nice person? And if so, what do you think is living in your shadow? Be honest. This is a safe space for it.